Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Real Talk with Aunt Laura. The reason why I changed from Coach Lara to Aunt Laura was because I started kind of going through some stuff, and not like anything wild or crazy, but just in general was going through changes and realized with several of the jobs, because I work multiple jobs, that there were a lot of people out there who were my age and younger who were struggling with basic life principles. And I think sometimes when we struggle with basic life principles and other people have been through a lot of experiences, it's good to share those experiences, right? Now, there's probably going to be some criticism from some folks. You may have different backgrounds, different things. I'm coming to you from someone who is raised in the desert, but I was also Southern raised. My family hails from places like Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, just places like that, and here in Arizona. So I am an Arizona person. Um, but I jokingly call myself Texasonan because I have that Texan and that Arizona kind of combined. Now, putting this background together for you, I'm just trying to create a space where I can actually go ahead and just start talking about the issues that directly affect folks. And for most of you who don't know me, um, I am at one point was the neighborhood mom. I still am in a lot of ways. I still get messages and phone calls from my neighborhood kids. I call them my kids. I was a younger mom who had kids, so it actually was a benefit for me. My oldest son, now just understand that I also had other children who are with the Lord right now. And by the way, I am a woman of God, but I'm a very real kind of woman of God, and I'm not your typical Christian. So there's going to be some things where you may want to pass judgment over me, and there's a lot of criticism that I've received over the years. So I'm very accustomed to it. In fact, it actually gives me an opportunity to hash things out with people who are like, isn't this supposed to be this way? Isn't this supposed to be that way? So I'm able to actually bring the reality of a lot of scriptures to people. Now, I have other podcasts that are going to be happening. I'm dedicating time for one in particular as well, that's going to be basically in a separate section of YouTube. Excuse me. It's called The Bride Still Wears White. It's a very faith based um, type of program. It's meant to reach out to women who have been through domestic violence and abuse. I've been through both. I just realized my hair's kind of going crazy there for you. I've been through domestic violence. I've been through abuse, both physical, verbal, mental, the works. Went through a lot as a child, and that seems to be the norm in a lot of cases. But it's also what I went through. I understand is not even the norm for the norm. So I've been through different types of counseling and things like that to help me to grasp and understand that what I went through was not something that has to be devalued. So that's kind of the beauty of it. Um, as we're going along with these episodes, like I said, there's going to be different YouTube sections that I'm going to be linking at a future date. One of them again is The Bride Still Wears White. The other one I'm going to give a name at another time, but it's a really good, challenging one that I'm actually in the process of writing a book, and it's Answers to Tough Questions. Um, and I was gifted with someone in my life that I care deeply about. And this person told me one day, there are all these Christians in the world, and I'm just paraphrasing, so this isn't his word for word verbatim, okay? But this was the context of what he was saying. He's saying, I have reached out and talked to these people who claim to be of God, and there's all these answers that they don't seem to have. And to me, as a person, at one point I was a Sunday school teacher, and I had the toughest children. So I would learn something in scripture, and then the kids would ask me questions, and then I would go back and relearn something in scripture, because I even at times felt like I didn't teach it well. or well enough. And yet at the same time with their question, even though it was hard and it was challenging, I had an opportunity there to grasp the moment and say, you know what, I'm going to go learn this. And so I went and I learned me some things, and then I was able to come back to them. Now some of them I just found out answers for, because I've been studying. So, and not just basic studying, but like in-depth studying, because I was encouraged that all of the disciples were not completely educated, and most of the people that I leaned on had all this education, and the answers that I had that were really deep, they said, I really don't have much of an answer for you. And I was like, man, Lord, like, okay, I like tough questions. I ask tough questions. Um, I want to know answers to them. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go digging deep on this. So anyway, with this specific YouTube podcasting, the goal that I have on this one in particular is to have a real conversation, just real conversations. Like, I'm Aunt Laura and you're sitting on my front porch. Now, some of you may be older than I am, some of you may be younger. For anyone who actually has been asking the question, what is your age? I am not easily offended. I am 42 years young. And the reason why I say 42 years young is I have all this life experience that most people 20 years older than me have. And then I have all this other life that I'm starting to experience because I am discovering myself as a mom, as a single person, as, you know, just the things that I am without my kids being little. So I've gone through all of this other stuff that I am happy and excited and more than willing to share with my audience. And I want you to ask tough questions. This is a tough life question type thing. I'm going to have topics. If you pop up with questions, I'm going to do my best to get on at least once a week, write down some of the questions that I see. And it could be overwhelming for me because I'm just one person rocking out these podcasts, but I want you to be real with me. However, I will not tolerate disrespectful attitude from anybody. So if you get really rude, and I'm not talking like culturally rude, okay? Because I know that if you're in New York, you're going to have a different kind of demeanor than you are with us that are over in the South. But we have a respect for one another because of the backgrounds, right? Um, so what I'm talking about is completely annihilating other people on here and using this as your platform. This is not your platform to annihilate people. This is a platform for people with real questions. I was an aunt, a neighborhood mom, an aunt. These kids still call me, and I say kids because to me they are, but they're in their 20s, right? Some of them are, you know, just coming into my peripheral, and they're 16 and 17, and they've said, Aunt Laura, what do I do about this situation or that situation? So this is coming with perspectives. Now, if you're older, if you're around my age, if you've been through life, maybe you've got some experience, go ahead and throw some comments in here. I'm more than happy to take a look at them. I'm more than happy to comment back. The one thing I ask is this is going to be a little bit difficult, but do not be easily offended because some of the things that I have had to have other people that have had to tell me, that's what I'm trying to say. um, I realized if I would not have been easily offended, how much more I would have learned just listening to what they had to say. Sometimes the truth hurts. There's this phrase, and again, I told you before, I'm not your average Christian, but there is a phrase that's out there, and basically, it's, you know, F your feelings, right? And so this is talking about, okay, yes, I'm hurt, I'm wounded, like these conversations. However, I cannot be emotionally led. I need to lead in wisdom. It doesn't mean you dismiss how you feel about a situation because sometimes we got to walk that out, right? Because we're human and we feel, you know, if you feel passionately about something, you're going to totally come out that you're passionate about it. It's going to happen. But the concept behind what we're going to talk is real talk. And part of this was inspired years ago. a girlfriend of mine, the part of the title anyway, was inspired from years ago when a girlfriend of mine, and I'm talking about my friend, okay? So keep this in context. I'm an 80s child. If I say girlfriend, that means it's my friend and she's a female. That's all that is. If I say boyfriend, or my guy friend, not boyfriend, my guy friend, I'm talking about someone who is a friend that is a man. Okay. These things can happen. You just have to walk them the right way. All right. So if I say my man, I'm talking about my boyfriend. Okay. So we've got this basis down. So anyway, my girlfriend and I, we were going through Taco Bell. We were about to go to the Renaissance Festival. My kids are in the back, and they're preteen, just like ready, and it happened to be a Doctor Who themed party. And I, at the time, had dyed my hair red. And my friend, she was like this just gorgeous blonde haired chick, and her hair was down to here, and lots of waves going on. And she had like all this glamour and glitz, and she had this big old hat on. And I was like just basically trying to be one of the characters in Doctor Who, and with my red hair. And if you know Doctor Who, then you're probably going to guess right on who it was, but I'm not going to go into detail about that. So I had on this leopard print shirt, and I had this bright red hair, and I had my makeup done, and we go through this Taco Bell because we're like, okay, I got the kids in the back, and I'm hungry, and we're just gonna eat Taco Bell. So we're grabbing our five, what was it, five beefy 5 layer burritos and all that. And this guy, I roll up and he's all, real talk, girl, I love me some red hair. And I was like, I looked at my friend and I was like, oh, okay, well, thank you for liking my red hair. And he's like, oh, you're welcome. And it was just funny because it was just real talk. It was what it was on his mind. Now, I was at the time I was married. And so to me, I was a very awkward little pickle. Okay, I'm going. What do I say? Like, what do I do? Because I hadn't been hit on like that in like forever, it seemed like. And so I'm like, how do I even act? I don't even know how to act. You know what I mean? I was just myself. So I was like, well, thank you. I like your dreads. I don't even know. But I made sure my hand went up so he could see the ring, like kind of like, hey, dude. So anyway, that inspired me to, like, her and I were joking for months. Actually, we still even once in a while when I see her or talk to her, real talk, and we'll hit it up. And then I was sitting with someone real close to me, not too long ago, and we were talking about like the world and how things were, and we're gonna watch some weird movie. But before we even got to that point, we had this moment where I was explaining to him my heart's desire to help young ladies in our area, and even just across like the states or wherever you're at across the world, to understand some basic things, like bring back womanhood, real womanhood, not this weird version of it that makes absolutely no sense in real life situations. And he said, "Well, why don't you call it Talks with Aunt Laura?" And I'm like, "That's true because I've been the neighborhood aunt. I still get called Aunt Laura, and I really thought about it. And who is cooler to go to than your aunt?" Now, I'm not saying I'm the coolest person on the planet, but I'm just saying like I'm gonna be real with you because you need that realism. And the coolest people I knew were my aunts and uncles, even if they weren't like, they were technically my cousins, but they were that age range with my mom. So I would call them Aunt so and so or Uncle so and so. I enjoyed getting advice from them sometimes that was the same advice my poor mom had told me, right? And so they're giving me advice, and then I'm like, okay. And it was cool to me. It was like, okay, it hit better. And when I say cool, it hit cooler. It hit like it's a hot day and you just drank a glass of water. You're like, that kind of hurt, but I really needed it. I got hydrated in life, so to speak. So that's what this is all about. Now, things to expect with me. It's just going to be very random. There's going to be occasions where I might do a series like I've done in the past. Um, and I say a lot. I just realized that. Saying Okay. So anyway, real talk. Watch how many times you say on a YouTube video. But anyway, the point that I'm getting at is that um, I'm going to be kind of hitting these bases of conversations that I have with other people and putting them up here. There won't be any names. This is not to put someone's mess all over the place. This is just, hey, I had a conversation with someone not too long ago, and this is the topic we were going over and the situations that were happening and the difficulties. Part of the reason why I'm doing this is because a lot of people don't have this aunt in their life. So if you don't have this aunt, I want you to think about it like we're sitting in my kitchen and we're having a cup of sweet tea or whatever you drink, and we're having this talk where you listen or you ask questions, and I want you to do that. Go ahead. Put it up in these comments right here, because I'm going to take a look and I'm going to be real about it. I write stuff down. I got notebooks. This is ridiculous. I got notebooks for days. I write down my thoughts. I guess it'd be the evidence of my life all over the place. But you know what? Hey, at least I'm leaving a legacy somewhere for someone, and hopefully it'll help somebody else out. So I am going to kind of start this off right now with a mini subject. You know, the things that we talk about in life, sometimes it's hard to talk real about them and to lay it out, you know. I went through a lot most of my life. I've been through, like I said, all kinds of different abuses. Um, some were from former family members. And when I say former, I really do mean former, like some have died and some were um, uh, basically kicked out of the tribe, so to speak. Behavior became too horrible and it took a long time with promises of change that never happened. Okay. So that's just the basis of it. Some of the situations I went through were from, dating and whatnot. Some of the situations that I went through were the last, uh, well, about 4 years ago, I had went through a divorce, almost 5 years ago now. It's kind of crazy. Started back in 2022 and just kind of went up from there. Um, and when I say up, there was a lot going on, but I was married for almost 20 years. And the person that I was married to, um, and this is not me dramatizing or anything, these are just basic facts, okay? Was abusive, narcissistic, very good at hiding what was going on um, behind closed doors and making me look like I was very frail. Now, granted, I take responsibility for hiding the abuse that was happening to me, but I found out there were other abuses that happened with my family, and some of these people had been children and they became adults and they came and they talked to me. So there was a lot of devastation that happened there. Some of that is going to be stuff that you'll hear more about if you decide that you want to go ahead and listen to The Bride Still Wears White. Um, but some of the conversations that we have, I'm coming in from this angle of I've been through the abuses, I'm going through the healing process. And I say going because even though I am toward the end of a very long trek through therapy, which has been amazing. I mean, if you've been through stuff where a doctor looks at you and multiple look at you and say you have post traumatic stress disorder, or you have post traumatic stress, or whatever, I encourage you to take your pride and ego down to nothing and to say, I am going to go find the right person that I can listen to and glean from, and that I can get this out. Someone that I can navigate and say, I can trust you. Because the moment that I did that, when I finally actually did it, was when the healing began. I had been through a fight or flight mode, been in it, not even through, I had been in it since I was very little because of some horrible things that happened to me. And it caused a skewed vision for me of what type of people I wanted in my life, who I was surrounding myself with. And even though I tried to surround myself with positive people, I realized I was leaning into people who were dragging themselves down, and misery loves company. So it brought me down too. Those things that I went through didn't just do that, but it skewed what I understood of what a healthy relationship looked like and what it would look like for me in the future. And so it was very difficult. I had to navigate through some things that um, my trauma was so, I don't know how to put it, so harsh. I think harsh is a good word. Um, that it caused me to literally lose parts of memories. I didn't know where they, like, I didn't remember certain things. And that was really bad because some of these things I needed to remember. And it's complicated when you're talking to somebody who said, I don't know how you don't remember these, right? And some of them were really traumatic, some of them were really fun. And so this last season of my life when I went to go get this therapy, part of it was so that I could start remembering what happened to me and who I am, who I was, because who I am now is different. And if you think about it in context in life, who you are, the deep parts, um, the good stuff usually doesn't change, but the reactions change. Now, I'm not saying that this is life advice to hang your hat on, but if you're trying to go forward, my encouragement to you is start listening to the good advice and start figuring out what good advice is, you know, who really knows how to navigate through life? Who is it in your circle of influence? And start listening to the things that they say. And I'm not talking about someone who drags other people down. I'm not saying other people are perfect. You're going to have friends that you're like, do I really want to get advice from them? But they actually might be the right person to get advice from. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's an old saying that my grandma used to say. So, because back in the day, you didn't have a running sink technically, and you're doing your bath for your baby inside of a tub, a wash tub. And so you would have to take the baby out and put the baby aside, and then you have to go dump the dirty water outside. So there was a thing that said, their saying was, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now you know. Okay. So with all of these contexts of, the person that is talking to you, like we're talking on a front porch, some of these episodes are going to be 30 minutes. Some, I'm going to try my hardest not to go beyond that, but I know that some episodes are going to be a little bit longer. If you can sit through a movie or scroll through TikTok for 80 years, okay, that's an exaggeration, by the way, then there should be no issues with following through with watching the video. I also encourage you, if you don't like something in the context of the video and you think, man, I'm just gonna totally click off of this, I encourage you to wait until the very end. Feel it out, because that's actually sound advice for a lot of things. There's a lot of things in this world where we have done this thing where we walk away from difficult situations. Sometimes we walk away from them right as they start. And I have lots more to come on that. So, welcome to the new channel. Welcome to the new setting, sceneries. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for just all of the comments that I've gotten in the past. I know not a lot of people have subscribed, but I did see some of my stuff talking about what it is to be a woman of, value and worth and all of these things. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that shared those videos, liked them. Some of you didn't even like get that far. You just started sharing. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing them, because I saw them on other medias and it really touched my heart. I feel like I'm just a redneck girl in a desert drinking sweet tea, like who's just putting out there the stuff that I've learned. So I really do want to say thank you so much for, just putting my content out there. I appreciate you guys so much. You're awesome. Um, Someone was asking me how they could donate to the channel in private, and I told them I'm working on that. Right now, I do have a Cash App. I'm gonna try and set some stuff up so that if you guys want to go ahead and donate to that, all this is gonna do is continue to give me the ability to put content out there, to be able to go over real life stuff that we're going through, whether it's from the news, media, whether it's, hey, this person did this or that, or I went through this or that. What do I do? All that's what this does. Anything you put out here helps me to help you guys. So, and that's how I plan on staying true to it. I'm not a perfect person. I'm just an aunt. Um, I raised over 21 kids in my neighborhood, and I was very young. I started off being a mom. My first child, I lost her when I was 16 years old, and my second born, he was born when I was 18. So a couple years later, he's a gift and a blessing. And then almost a few years later after that, I had my second son. And a while after that, I I say I gained a heavenly daughter. So I have two of them in heaven right now, and it's different. Both were different, different situations, and some of these situations I'll go over on here because they have to do with life and how do we navigate with when you feel like you have no one to talk to or turn to. So I've been down those roads as well, and I will be going over that kind of stuff in probably my next several episodes. Um, so that's kind of the background of me. I was the neighborhood mom. I did work. At one point, I supported our family for a long time, and that was being married. My ex-husband had just like most people, struggled with getting a job at one point. We lived in an area that it wasn't easy access, and then he also had some substance abuse issues that prevented him from getting jobs that would have really benefited himself, um, and our family as well for prosperity. But that did not happen. uh, I come from that living in the same place for 16 years because I traveled around so much when I was younger. And even when we landed in the last place we did, um, right after that, I was moving again. And so it was just so much of the move that my heart's desire was for my children. Like I wanted the white picket fence, I wanted all of the things, you know. I wanted this, I knew nothing would be perfect, and I loved the fingerprints of my kids on stuff. Like, it just reminded me, like, I had dresses for a long time I still wore, where their greasy little hand had come up and touched me just to grab my skirt, "Mama, mama," and I still wore those around. But that imperfectness, I was good with, but it was the other stuff, that the abuses that would happen, that I was not okay with. And then when I found out later that it had hit further than just myself, um, it was a hard reality. Some of you may be going, "Why didn't you know?" Blah blah blah. Look, all I can say is when you are being abused, you're if you're being abused by someone who's really good at it, who's narcissistic, the actual definition of narcissism, by the way, not this flippant word that we're throwing out there just to cover what our feelings don't want to handle, okay? But the actual version of it, this person made me believe that I was worthless, that I was fat, that I didn't work hard enough, that my my food wasn't good enough that I would make for the family. But then he would get mad at the kids for not eating everything on their plate. And so it was just this battle. He would get frustrated that they didn't do chores, but then he didn't want to do any of the indoor chores. Like it was just a constant mix of that. And we went through counseling and things like that. Like I kept asking and begging him to go to counseling. I kept thinking I was the problem because at one point he turned everything around on me and said, "You're the reason, you're the reason, you're the reason." And I believed it. So I went through all this while the world is going through social media stuff and they're like, "Oh, men and women, da 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 da." And I was over here just like actually going through some crazy real life stuff and learning that some people who are what I call, and I'm affectionately calling them this only because I know that some of them turned their life around and went, "I can't even believe I said that." Um, but while I was going through this real stuff, they were going through this thing where they were like, "I want more. I deserve way better." And it wasn't like, "Man, you know what? I deserve more. I know I know I'm not perfect, but I really wanna what I really want is not a bad thing, and we deserve to have this as a couple." No, it was like, "I want this," and it was nasty, and they would treat their husband wrong, or, the husband would treat their wife weird, and I was like, "What the heck?" And then I would go into reflection in the bathroom because that was the place where I found I could lock the door and just kinda take a couple of minutes, and I would cry or pray or maybe both, and I realized how much, the differences were because I wasn't just complaining, and I felt like I was. And this is where going through therapy recently, reflecting on this, I wasn't complaining about the real life situation. It was happening. And I didn't have anybody that I knew that I could trust who had successfully been through what I had been through and walked away with their head up and strong, but not prideful and egotistical. I'm not talking about pride like, "Hey, my kid scored a goal." No, I'm talking about their pride that doesn't wanna listen to what others have to say. And I felt this way, I felt alone with it, and the reality was I wasn't. I was just so stuck in it, it was hard to see who I could trust because my own personal family, a lot of the women in the family went through abuse. A reality. It's a reality. But a lot of those same women, I am so proud of because they got up and they fought. They fought for their life, they fought for their kids, they fought for themselves, and it was just absolutely amazing to see them get up and see them succeed in life, see them settle down with the right person. I was so happy to see I had the most joyful experience watching a handful of them do that. They got themselves on straight, got their head on straight. And some of them, they even said, "Hey, it was a process while this guy and I were talking, this new guy." So it was really wonderful to see. Um, so life experience that I'm going to be sharing with you, it's I'm excited to do it. I have been asked to do it, and I am honored to do it. So I am 42 years young. I technically even my doctor was like, "You started over, but you need to watch out because, honey, you can still have kids, and honey, when you get married again," because she had no doubt in her mind. I'm like, "Crickets chirping. I don't see that happening soon because I'm me." But who knows? Who knows? I'm not gonna doubt it because I have value too, just like that person will have value or does have value. So putting this out there, just want you guys to know it's really real talk with me. Um, I've experienced a lot, and like I said, this is just kind of a summary. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all the likes and the shares over the years. And thank you for everyone who's subscribed. You're awesome. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode.